Hello and welcome to Hamer Reviews. My name is Christopher Hamer and today I'm reviewing the Sony ZV-1 Vlogging Camera. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is the fourth time that I've recorded this particular review. I simply can't make my mind up on what I really think about this camera. I've got the basics right. I know my rough feeling about it. I've had it for a couple of months now. I've taken a fair bit of video, I've taken a fair few photographs, and I think I've got to know it quite well. This is admittedly amidst a time when I've got the Nikon Z6 II and a couple of new lenses, and I've used the Z50 a bit more, so it's definitely been a backup camera of sorts, but I have been using it and I have on multiple occasions felt like I'm ready to review it. My issue with it is that I'm not sure it knows what it is. Sony builds this as a vlogging camera, and that's how it was launched. I think it was during the first lockdown, so sort of between March and May of this year. Sony is charging £700, and it is the de facto vlogging camera in small format. Or is it? Isn't that the Panasonic GH5, even though it's a bit bigger? Isn't it your mobile phone in your pocket? I think to really understand this, you need to look at the Sony RX100 lineup. The RX100 series is a really interesting set of compact cameras with high quality lenses and high quality sensors. They are the cameras for people that don't want to carry a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, but do want good image quality. This ZV-1 has inherited a lot from that lineup. The 20.1 megapixel sensor, for instance, is from that lineup. The 24 to 70mm lens, again, is clearly influenced by that lineup. You do get some really great Sony features. You also get some terrible Sony features like the menu system, which is one of the worst I've had to deal with. But when you actually are using it, it feels like it's working against you, trying to make your life as difficult as possible. Let me list a few examples so you know what I'm talking about. These are actual problems I have encountered and have had to troubleshoot along the way. I started shooting video with it. I wanted to shoot 4K because why would you not if you buy this kind of camera with this kind of quality sensor and lens? And I couldn't record for more than 5 minutes. By default, it has an overheating protection enabled, which doesn't allow you to record a video more than 5 minutes long. It's a real nightmare. If you're trying to use this to actually record things out of the box, you're going to get really frustrated immediately. Then I went to actually switch that off, and then I was starting to shoot some 4K video with it, and in fact I was doing some handheld vlogs like you're going to see later. And the image stabilisation is much less effective at 1080p than it is at 4K. I'm not entirely sure whether this is because it's using a mixture of electronic image stabilisation and actual image stabilisation in the lens, but I found the handheld 4K footage, vlogging style, really bad. It's very shaky, whereas in 1080p it was really good and absolutely usable. The menu system is not particularly logical. I really struggled with it, I won't lie. I struggled with the menu on this camera. Every single element of it was difficult. It was not very easily laid out. You had to click across to get to various menu items. I constantly found myself scrolling. This has a touchscreen and will allow you to focus the touchscreen, but you can't use the touchscreen for anything else. So you can't even scroll through the menu system, which again, is illogical given you've put the touchscreen on here, which is fine enough for you to point at a focus point. So why on earth could you not use it for that? So I'm just going to take a moment to interrupt myself and discuss what I mean about the menu, because I feel like it might have been disingenuous to you guys watching it when I say that I think the menu is complex. So the menu split into 5 parts. You've got this camera 1 section, camera 2 section. So the first part is really looking at quality image size for photography. Second part is looking at your movie settings. Third part is looking at your network settings. Fourth part is looking at playback. The fifth part's the setup of the actual camera. And then the sixth part is your choices. You can put whatever you want in here. In this case, I've just put steady shot in there so it's not empty. The reason why I think it's complex is you can't really logically scroll through it. You have to select each one, then go into it, and then you have 12 separate pages in the case of the photo 1 section. Then you get to video, you have another 9 pages. I feel like things could have been slightly more logically set out. And some pages are only slightly full. Now, I know they've got subheadings. So in this case, if we go through the movie section again, you've got movie 1, which is your exposure modes, your file formats. Then you have movie 2, which continues and goes into like things like AF settings. And then you have movie 3, which has things like your audio settings. Then movie 4, which shows things like your recording lamp and some marker display settings. Then it's slightly more logical because it talks about shutter and steady shot. So this is your image stabilisation. So it would have kind of, to me, made more sense to have that as part of the other settings. Then zoom has its own section for some reason. Then you have your display and auto review settings. Again, no separate settings here. And then your custom key operations. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that it's across 9 pages, that you have partially empty pages. It slows you down when you're trying to move through settings. I just feel like the actual logical layout of this menu doesn't make a huge amount of sense. I mean, you know, setup 1, setup 2, setup 3, setup 4, setup 5, setup 6. So if you're going to use subheadings, use them. If you're not, don't. Don't have partially full pages in the case of some of those video pages, just because you think, I mean, here again, setup 5 and setup 6 only has one thing on it. Setup 5 has 5 things on it. Why not put that last thing on the page before, instead of confusing everyone by putting it across multiple pages when it doesn't need to be, without subheadings that make sense? So this is what I'm talking about, the menu system not being to my liking. You can make your own mind up, but I just wanted to illustrate what I was talking about. I like the ergonomics. For a little camera, this is probably the most comfortable to hold that I've come across. It has a very nice ergonomic thumb grip. It has an actually incredibly comfortable front grip that allows you to grip it properly and not lose hold of it. The lens is phenomenal for such a small camera. 24mm, 70mm, I think it's 1.8 to 2.8. 100% like what you want. Works really well. Good sharpness, good colors, good contrast. I like the fact that Sony has gone so far as to put a dedicated record button that's nice and big, in fact the same size as the photographic button on the front, but I would have flipped it. I actually would have made the photographic button the record button with the zoom buttons, and then I would have put the photographic button at the back. Simply, I think, because this is supposed to be a vlogging camera, and for me, that's where I would have started off. There is one thing that this camera has that is exceptional, and that is the autofocus. I think it is no secret that Sony's autofocus performance is above and beyond what other manufacturers have been capable of, and they have packed that mirrorless technology they've developed into the ZV-1. The face detection is very good. The eye detection works well. And it has a fantastic product showcase mode, which for vloggers could be really useful because it is excellent at picking out the product that you want to show everyone and gets the focus bang on it. It works sublimely well. The microphones need a shout out as well. It comes with a dead cap that you can actually mount on top if you want to reduce wind noise, though it isn't necessarily needed. It has really good stereo audio, like excellent stereo audio, and the audio quality straight out of it is fantastic. And when you're using it at a vlogging distance of around 1 meter, it picks up your voice perfectly. Sony has done a good job. On the back, we have a very good screen. It's fully articulated, so I can actually flip it out and you can see what you're doing, and you can also move it around if you're going to be monitoring or swivel it however you need. It's a very good screen. It's nice and high resolution. It can show you a lot of information, whether it's the audio, so the audio levels, whether it's your current shooting mode, autofocus points. It gives you all that information on the back. Shout out to Sony also for their auto white balance, which is surprisingly good in this. I am one that usually complains about auto white balance on non-Nikon cameras because I find, generally speaking, I don't find it as good. This is good and it has been very accurate. The controls are okay. So we have some nice options. We have the control wheel on the back, which can be used to change settings like exposure and aperture. You have a decent amount of function buttons. So you've got a function button here. You have another one up here that you can customize. You can customize a lot of the buttons and layouts. Overall, it's fairly simple and easy to use, and it has been well made. So this feels solid. It will come as no surprise to anyone that it uses SD cards, and it does have a, I don't know, a smaller than expected battery. For this kind of camera, it's a bit small. It's 1240 milliamp hours. Perhaps Sony might have considered putting something slightly bigger in, but I guess they've already packed a lot into a small form factor, so there wasn't much choice. That small form factor is actually highlighted by the offset of the tripod mount. Now, this shouldn't look like an issue, but the tripod mount being so far across, I found once I have a actual connector on it, there's no way to open the battery door, so there's no way to change memory cards or change batteries. It's a bit of a minus in my book. Being a vlogging camera, it has a good amount of connections. We have a mic input, which is good, but no mic output, which is a shame. We have a micro HDMI output, if you want to use an external monitor, for instance, and you have micro USB. Now, I think Sony's done a really good job of putting USB-C in all of their consumer devices, but this uses standard micro USB. It's not very good. It's a connector that is poor quality and tends to fail in my book, and the cables are terrible, and they don't allow fast data transfer. It must be said this micro USB is a little bit special because it allows power delivery to the camera enough that you can actually run this off a USB power bank. That is good because it makes up for the fact that this battery could be better. So if you do want to power this for a long time, you can hook it up to a power bank and it will work. In taking photos, this isn't bad. My one criticism would be high ISO performance in photos isn't great. I guess it's a small format sensor. It's bigger than most, it must be said, but it's still a relatively small sensor. And so perhaps that is adding to it, but that's a bit of a disappointment because I would have hoped that Sony had slightly better high ISO performance, though it's all right in video. If I'm completely honest, in video you don't notice it as much. It does have the hot shoe on the top with this sort of special accessory connection, so you can fit some of Sony's accessories that will work very well with this, which is nice. As I said, the included dead cat is a nice touch. And they will also sell you, if you want, a little selfie stick which has Bluetooth controls that you can control the camera with. I was considering getting it, but it's over £100. And I bought this well after the promotion that included one almost for free or at a steep discount, so I didn't bother. If you need a selfie stick, a standard one will be fine. Video quality is, as I said, the main thing, and it does work well once you have it set up. I have a little vlog for you to watch, which was meant as an intro to the previous videos, but just view it as a sound and video quality test, and I'm going to play that now.
Is when I initially recorded it, the 4K footage was really shaky. Now, I did some research, and it turns out that if you use this in 4K, you can't use the active image stabilisation mode that's available in 1080p. And if you don't use that, your footage is extremely shaky.
So as I said, that was supposed to intro the video, the previous one that I'd recorded, but I think it's better that you just see a clip of that now and you get an idea of what the quality is like. I've also had obviously the various different test shots that I've tried and have been fairly happy with, it must be said. So that brings us on, finally, and if you stuck with the video so far, well done, it's a price. This camera costs the best part of £700. That is a lot of money. That will buy you a very good used mirrorless camera with a lens that you can record vlogs with. The biggest issue, however, I think, isn't the mirrorless cameras that this is going up against or other compact style cameras. It is the mobile phone. All of us have these in our pockets, and the fact of the matter is that my iPhone will shoot 4K with almost better image stabilization than this. Yes, I don't have the lens, but 24 to 70 millimeters isn't quite as wide as you'd think, and I already have this, and I don't need to pay extra money for it. I think Sony has priced this too high. It has absolutely attracted the sort of pro vloggers, right? But I don't think that's such a big market. What they need to get is people that are taking videos on YouTube or uploading them to Facebook and are enjoying it so much that they want to use a camera, but they're not essentially earning money from it. Because if you're earning money from it, I kind of question why you wouldn't move up to mirrorless camera. So, I think this is overpriced, but it will be interesting to see over the years whether Sony knocks the price down. Because if this were around £400 to £500, I have an odd feeling that they might fly off the shelves a little more, because it's more achievable and you can kind of look past some of the issues. I mean, if you're shooting on a tripod, the 4K video from this is kind of difficult to distinguish from some of the footage I've taken with my Nikon Z6 and Z6 II. So clearly it's capable of great things. I have also, just to address this issue, some people complain about the fact that the lens isn't wide enough. I think it's okay. You need to hold it fairly far away if you're doing a vlog style camera, so you might want a slightly longer selfie stick, but I don't think that's an issue. Some people have said that even at 1.8, 24 millimeters, it's not a shallow enough depth of field to really remove you from the background. That's true, but I think that's going to be true of most of this style cameras at this price point. So I think that's just one of those things. So do I recommend the Sony ZV-1? Not really, if I'm completely honest. I think it's a bit too expensive. But if you have that specific use case of creating content for online, your phone isn't good enough because you need a better lens or more zoom or more flexibility, this is good. If you mostly walk around and record vlogs with a camera on a selfie stick and you need to shoot at 4K, don't buy this because the image stabilization is not good enough. If you're shooting at 1080p, absolutely fine, I can recommend it. The image stabilization is very good. It's a shame there's such a disparity between those two. It is well made. The battery life is all right, though as I said, USB power bank, micro USB cable, it'll work fine. And Sony has done a good job. I hope to see what Sony does in the future with this, because I hope this isn't the only ZV series camera we see, because it's a great concept and no one else has really, I don't think, done it this well. So I hope to see Sony develop this idea, or even other companies, because there could be a bigger market for this, perhaps at a better price point. So there is my hopefully final video. I really hope I don't re-record this again. If you see this video now, you will know I haven't. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions or comments, I'd really love to hear from you on this. Have you used one of these? What do you think of it? Were you considering buying one? If so, why? What is your use case? I'd love to know. Or do you think it's just a little silly? Pop that in the comment section. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. The other button works too. And if you haven't, please subscribe. It really helps the channel and I really appreciate it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.